So I did the sound healing. I've been getting tarot readings. I got the human design reading. There's a lot of information here, and I needed time to sort it all out. I needed time to do everything I needed to do, right? But at one point, I started watching videos on Dolores Cannon. And she does a lot of stuff with past life stuff. And I was watching videos from her students doing past life stuff. And I was watching those videos. Very fascinating stuff, right? Incredibly intriguing. The thing is, I noticed that people who do these past life readings get healing a lot of times, or sometimes, or there's something that's learned that is just like, oh, this is the reason why you keep dealing with this, and so on and so forth. So when I saw that, obviously I was just like, oh, I'm intrigued. So I kept watching and kept just, getting a better understanding of what was happening. And there was this one, and this woman was going to, she went to the lady to get her a past life reading done, and I think there was something with her voice, like she didn't speak up, or she felt stifled in her voice a lot of times, and there was like this spirit attached to her, and there was something that in the past life that had happened, and it just like it latched on. And the therapist was able to connect, say, hey, I need you to, let her go, and this sort of thing. And I'm just like, I love this stuff. I love listening to it and talking about it. Very fascinating stuff. So I was just like, all right, I have a lot going on. Some things are helping, some things are, at the time I'm just trying to figure out what's helping, what's not. So I'm just like, I'm gonna let's do it. So I look for a therapist, for a hypnotherapist that could do a past life regression for me. And I found this guy, and I prefer to like go in person, but again, during this time, nobody was trying to do that. So I was just like, well, crap. So I ended up acquiescing, and we did it online. I just prefer the face to face, but anyway. So we set up an appointment, and it's a past life regression. So I was really excited about this because I didn't know what to expect. I didn't, it's different. It's very different. And I think at this time, actually before I got it, I had got this book, and it was about hypnosis, or self-hypnosis, and just like going through it and stuff. So I was just like, well, shoot, I'm gonna try this self-hypnosis thing, and whatever. So I was already kind of just like playing around with it because I'm, again, during this time, I'm looking at a lot of different stuff because I needed help. So set up the appointment, and it's the day of. I'm like, okay, cool, we're gonna do this thing. And when you think about, if you've never done hypnotherapy or whatever, my assumption was that they talk a certain way, and they're helping you to get relaxed, and they're helping you to hypnotize. So I thought it would be more, I thought the guy would talk a little bit more like this, and it would be and like flowing kind of sounds to kind of like lull you into hypnosis. But the guy was like, it was almost bombastic a little bit. Like he's talking like this, and he's gonna go down. And I'm just like, hey, it's so loud. Like, are you sure you're gonna hypnotize me like this? Like, but he's the professional, right? I'm just the recipient. So I was just like, ooh, I should have like turned the volume down. I felt like, just remembering it, I was like, oh my gosh. So, it's a process, right? It's a process, and there's certain ways that you do it to help the person relax, go from being an adult and like going back to your adolescence and childhood. And it's kind of the regression, right? Obviously past life regression. So you regress down to childhood and back into the womb and that whole sort of thing. Um, so it's very interesting just to even just as a thinking back on it now and just like the whole process of you start thinking about stuff that you haven't thought about and however old you are, but like there's things that I hadn't thought about in 28, 29, 30 years, right? But I'm remembering them now during this past life regression. And at one point, so here's the interesting part. One of the interesting parts, before we go too deep, right? Before we go too deep, I had to pee, which was annoying to me because I didn't want something to interrupt what was happening. But I had to pee. so I'm like, oh man, hey, I gotta pee, can we? And he's just like, yeah, that's okay. We can bring you up just enough for you to go pee and then come back. I was like, all right, cool. So during this time, when I'm laying down, I didn't feel any different. I was just laying down on my bed and my eyes were closed. I was relaxed. I was chilling, but I didn't really feel any different. So he brings me up just enough to go to the bathroom to go pee. So I get up. I open my eyes. I stand up to go walk, and I'm like doubling over a little bit. I'm like, oh God, wait, what? I felt like I was 4 shots deep in some vodka or something. Now I don't drink anymore. I mean, I used to, right? So I know what it feels like. But I seriously, honestly felt like I had been drinking. And I was just like, whoa, wait a minute. It was just that part alone let me know that, oh yeah, this is real. Like what he did actually had an effect, like a very palpable effect, because I was struggling to get to the bathroom to go pee. And it was just like, it's just funny. It's funny because when you think about hypnotism, you see it on TV, right? That's a production. And real hypnotism. And I was just like, wow, okay. So I go to the bathroom barely. And I couldn't wait to get back in that bed and just lay down because I was not, my body was not functioning the way that I'm used to it functioning. So I get back and, we go through the process, we continue. And it was very cool because at one point, it's like I'm remembering being in the womb, but I just see my mom, she's just pregnant with me. And then it's just like I'm going back. I'm in this tunnel, in this white tunnel, and it's rushing. It's like a rushing white tunnel. And in the moment, I didn't realize, like, yeah, I'm going back I'm transporting to the other life, But I was just like, I'm in a tunnel. At first, I was like, oh, why am I in this tunnel? And then I plop down, right, and I'm in like the middle of a desert, and just looking around and stuff. And it was. I'm going through this process of seeing where I'm at. He's leading me because I don't know what's going on, and it's just like one of them things where I'm not all the way trusting with what I'm seeing, but. This stuff is appearing, and I'm just like, why am I seeing all this stuff, right? So I go through, and so before I had this regression, I was talking to Danielle. We went walking one time, and she was telling me that she could smell like some leaky gut on me, which I was just like, girl, you can smell that? Again, this is why I love intuitives. Because you just learn so much. They just be dropping stuff on you and just like, ooh. Because I had this issue with my gut. And what happened was when I was gaining all that weight, I gained like a beer belly. And like I said, I don't drink anymore. I never liked beer, so I was never at risk for like a beer belly, all that wheat and all that stuff just building up and giving you like just a gut. You could be thin everywhere else, just have that big old gut, right? But I was developing a beer belly, which Again, doesn't make sense because I don't drink. And I just didn't know what was going on. And Danielle was just like, I don't know, leaky gut, smell, you know. So I was like, okay, that's interesting. So that gave me something to focus on, right? So during my past life regression, it came to a point where I had got shot. Well, in this life, I had got shot in my gut, and I didn't die. I survived. But this was, years and years ago. Whenever the time frame was. So like it wasn't that great. So I lived, but it's almost like I had a limp, but I didn't get shot in the leg, but I had it's like an injury on in my stomach, in my gut, and it ain't never, it haphazardly healed. That's what the body does. It's like body's gonna heal you as best it can, and just to keep you from dying, right? So there was nothing to encourage the surgery or anything to like get things in order and functioning as well as they can under the circumstance. So from that time on, I had this injury, right? And it was interesting because I believe that there was a correlation between that time, which is probably why this past life one of the reasons that past life came up. But between that injury and what I was going through, present day, and at the end of that, at the end of that session or at the end of that, he was just like, let that energy go. Like, that's not you. That was him. That's not something that you need to carry over. It doesn't serve you now. It's, that's gone. So it was cool because after the session was over and everything, I noticed it was in like 2 weeks, but within 2 weeks, my gut started to heal. Like it started to, it flattened out. Like I had this, I had a gut that sat out, and my stomach started to flatten out. I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm just blown away, right? It's so fascinating, but just going in and letting that energy go helped heal that thing in me right now. I think it was just a weakness or a hole in my aura or whatever that was, that was penetrated, and the thing started. The result was, just getting this gut for seemingly no reason. But there was a reason. There was an energetic tie from another life. And this is what I was talking about. Like, we go through things, but we might be carrying stuff from childhood or from a whole different life. So just something to think about. The other interesting thing was he asked me beforehand to write out people in my life who I feel might have significance, right? Who I just, everybody who I've known or whatever, just write out who I feel might, be significant. So I write out a couple of people, put my brother on there because we were kind of on similar journeys in a certain respect. And I put Sunshine on there because I thought, because with everything that was going on, that she might be relevant. But none of them popped up. And the one that did was, I'll just call her AJ. And we dated from like 2015 to 2017. And there's just things that I noticed when we were together. And one of the things for her seemed to be, it just seemed rushed, like a rush to get married and have children, right? And for me, it was kind of like the opposite. I was just like, what's the rush? What's the rush? It'll happen if it happens. It's cool. It's all good. But before we were together, I had this, for years, gone back and forth on the idea of having children. And it was always like, and I didn't know what that was. Or why sometimes it would be so strong, then other times it would, it would just teeter back and forth. So when I got the past life regression, he was asking me, he said, okay, well, who during this lifetime, who was significant in your life? So I'm in the process, and I'm thinking, and nobody comes to mind except AJ. And I'm just like, AJ, she's the only one that pops up in this life. And then I'm thinking about, I'm remembering, what happened. Her and I we were married in this life, and we married young, but we were married. And at a certain point, real quick tangent, but it's relevant. I saw this shaman. She had a near death experience that awakened her, as is often the case with people who awaken. It's, a lot of times you hear it's near death stuff and then they awaken, right? So I saw this lady, and I told her just kind of randomly, I said, I've been thinking about my ex-girlfriend a lot lately, but I don't know why. She's like, yeah, because she's your soulmate. And I said, what you mean? Just very glib, just, oh yeah, she's your soulmate. Yeah, that's, I was like, well, soulmate, well, why are we together? She's just explaining how, like, soulmate doesn't always mean like a romantic partner, or it's like, you incarnate with the soul group. So the people that you're familiar with, and in the life you have roles to play for each other's benefit. Whether it's antagonistic, whether it's protagonistic, if that's the right use of that word. But you have roles to play in each other's lives for your growth and development, and you really only get that. It's easier to get that with people that you're familiar with. So you think you're finding them for the first time in this life, but really y'all already besties. It's just you don't know it yet, right? So we've already done this dance before. So when she said that, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is very interesting. So when I was doing the past life regression and she popped up, I was just like, oh, it was this life, or at least one that we were together. So we were married. We married young, and we got to spend a decent amount of time together. And one significant event that happened was it's like fast forwarded, and it just like we were in like a room, and she was laying on the table, and basically we were like giving birth, right? It was in the process of giving birth. We were having a son. And I remember explaining to him how she's not moving. She's not moving. And she's not moving, and my son isn't moving. And I was just like, I think he's stillborn. And AJ wasn't moving either. And she had died during childbirth. And it kind of hit me in that moment. Like, again, not that I needed proof that past life stuff was real, or that there was, something to it, but I started feeling the realest, the deepest sadness, the most gut-wrenching sadness in that moment as I was explaining this. And it was just like, if he didn't switch off the topic, I would have started crying for sure. But it was just like, and it's funny just talking about it now. I can still feel that. It wells up in my eyes a little bit. But in the same day, in the same moment, I lost my wife and my son. And when I think back to how me and AJ were together in this life, it seemed like she was in such a rush to do it in his I I had to think it's because in another life she had died during childbirth. And there's this thing with, if the younger I am, the healthier I am, therefore the better chance that I will live through childbirth. And the reason why I had the thought that I did was because essentially, be it fear of losing your wife and your son, or your child or whatever, and not wanting to experience that again. And it's just like, it was one of those moments that hit me so hard, because I'm just like, oh, that explains it. That explains why I felt the way that I did, why that ambiguity around having children, or just the fear of, ooh, I don't know if I want to go that route, because it's something that happened before. And I just, when you think about it and you look at your life, and if you're honest, there's certain things that's just like, wow, without having a regression, or just, trusting or being intuitive or whatever, you may not ever, find out the reason. But I was happy to have found the reason, because I feel like now I can make a decision. I can make a more informed decision, from a different place, versus fear of losing, or that sort of thing. So that was an impactful moment for me, present me, right? It was really impactful. But during that life, the rest of that life, I didn't do anything. I got that wound, and I lived on like this farm kind of thing. But, I don't think I ever remarried or anything. I just was just like, mm-mm. And it was like during this, at the end of my life, end of that life, there was, I think I like died in a tornado. And just, the end of it was just this fear and anger. Because I was just like, why? Why was my life like this? Why did I lose my wife, my son? I had this injury, and just why? So it was anger, fear, frustration, and then that was it. There's so much to be said, I believe, about the way that you die, and why it's important to kind of have things settled, be at peace. It's more than just something that people say, and oh, he's at peace now, or whatever. It really made me look at death differently, because it's just like, be at peace just in general, right? Because when you do die, you don't want to be carrying over something that's detrimental. You don't want to die in fear. You don't want to die in pain, and just like, there's an aspect of taking care of yourself, taking care of things now. So, you're not carrying over anything that's not helpful. Do the work so that you can benefit in the next life, where you can just go peacefully, and not have things come back and haunt you. So it was very interesting. So that whole experience. Now, of course, we talked about more stuff, and did more things, asking questions about different stuff. Maybe I'll touch back on it later. But it was such an impactful past life regression. And it's one of those things. It was like 4.5, 5 hours long, which I don't know if they're normally that long. I know that my responses were kind of slow. Well, it didn't seem that long when I was in it. That's the strange thing. Like, I could tell, like, oh, it's probably like, an hour or two. That's what I said. It was like, what, hour and a half, 2 hours? He was like, nah, it's been like 5 hours. I'm just like, what? I had no idea. But but it was just it was so interesting. And again, I love that kind of stuff. And just learning about what you're going through, what you went through, and letting that stuff go, and then taking the stuff that's helpful, to learning from that, so it's not ailing you right now. And even the fact that I had that healing in my gut and everything after that, and it's just like, it was great. It was really great. I do wish that AJ and I were on speaking terms. I haven't spoken to her in years, and I wish that I could. Like I really wish. I really wish that we could be friends because this is just one of those things that I would love to be able to share with her, but she's not. This isn't her thing either. So I just kind of have to just from a distance, you know, just from a distance, just have the experience and then well maybe share it with you all on YouTube, but that's about it. So with all these things that I did, the tarot, the human design, the sound, the past life regression, I mean it was great getting me to a certain place, right? And even starting to look at things differently, starting to open up the doors and look at things differently, and like, hey, okay, there's so much out there that I don't know, and I'm just like, but now I want to know. I want to take a look and see what I can get. See what the next step is, right? and that's exactly what it did. It's getting to that point. So I hope you enjoyed that bit of that part of the story. Yes, there's more to come. There's always more to come. So stick around. Like and subscribe and stuff if you want to. I would greatly appreciate it. But I'm Johnny Jupiter, and I'll see you on the next time. There is no outro, baby. We don't do outros around here.